Hello folks, my name is Dennis Gillan. I'm going to try to do this video like in a fireside chat format for International Survivor of Lost Day. And it's by law that we have it on the Saturday before Thanksgiving. I would change that date, but there's a lot of craziness going on with the holidays, but it's also a great time. It is a great time to take a time out and do a little self-care for us survivors of suicide loss. That's me back there. I'm going to walk you through a little presentation that I do, and it took forever to get to this point. It took forever. So when you watch this video and you say, wow, that guy is now working in the suicide prevention arena, I want you all to know that it took me about 16, 17 years in my man cave to get over what I'm about to tell you in this video. And that's probably a misnomer right there. I didn't get over it. I got through it. You'll never get over what happened to us. We will never get over the loss of our loved ones. That's a fact. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Dennis Gillan. There's my name. Here's a picture when I had more hair. I can update that photo. And I call my presentation when I go out in the public and do this talk, even internationally. I spoke in Panama, the country. I speak about the journey towards recovery because one, we're all recovering from something. And two, everybody loves a good comeback. Everybody loves a good comeback. I came up with the bottom one there. Suicide stinks. I'm an accounting major by nature. We're not known for our creativity. We're just not known. So let's get into it. My name is Dennis Gillan. Suicide stinks. Thank you. That's all I have. That's all you need. That's all you need to know. You already know it. You already know it because you're a survivor of loss. You know that it stinks. And I wish I can come on here and say two words and get out of here, but I owe you all more than that. I owe you more than that. I never wanted to speak about this subject. When somebody would come up to me, knowing full well my story, they'd come up to me and say, Dennis, this person lost somebody to suicide. You should talk to him. I would try to get out of it. I'd be like at a cocktail party or something. I would try to get out of it and say, hey, isn't that big boy from Outcast over there? And I speak a lot of colleges, and they know who Big Boy from Outkast is. Do you all remember the song a couple of years ago, Hey Shake It Like a Polaroid Picture? That's Big Boy from Outkast right there. I met him. I know him. I'm hip. All right, I'm probably closer to needing a new hip than being hip. But the point is, I would try to get out of the conversation. I would just try to get out of it. And one day someone said, why are you always deflecting? Deflecting. That was what my therapist said. And she goes, Dennis, you always answer a question with a question. And I just said, who told you that? See, I just did it. But I always, one time I told my therapist, you know what I'm doing? I just watched the Wonder Woman movie. I'm deflecting like Wonder Woman. That's what I'm doing. I have these bracelets, and if something's coming from my heart, like talking about what I'm about to talk about, surviving a suicide loss, I would try to deflect and get out of it. I would run from it. Now, I'm on this mission where I'm running to it, towards it, and it took a long time to get here. So I will also use a Wonder Woman analogy here. She has that lasso of truth. That's the rope she takes. She wraps it around the bad guy. And I'm sorry, fellas, it's always a guy. She will wrap it around the guy, and the guy has to tell the truth. So let me tell you how I became a mental health advocate with an emphasis on suicide prevention. See, I don't want to be a suicide prevention guy my whole life. I want to go upstream and talk more about mental health because all of us, we're in a club, we don't want any more members. We don't. We want this club to go bye-bye. We don't. I remember going to lost meetings and there were new people, some of you folks, it may be fresh, raw. We don't want any more members in this club, so we want to go upstream. And now I'm about to tell you how I got into the suicide, I guess a survivor of suicide loss category in my life. It was 1983, and that's me and my older brother, Mark. I was at college at the time. I went to West Virginia University. I had one of those weeks where I was going to have a test in every subject. It was just one of those weeks. I remember it was a Wednesday. I remember it like yesterday, and my sister called up from home, and there was 5 of us, Sheila, Mark, me, Janice, and Matthew. I'm in the middle, and she called up and she goes, Dennis, you need to come home. She told me that Mark died in a car accident. They didn't know what to tell me. You all know why I'm here. You know why you're here. Mark battled depression for years, and the disease state won. Mark died by suicide. The car never left the driveway. I don't want to talk about means. I never want to talk about means. All I know is gone is gone. That's all I know. So the phone rang. My life changed. Here's where I did something that was, looking back, I wish I could change it. I did something that was irrational at the time. I went home, did the funeral, marked out on a Wednesday. I was home Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I was back in school on Tuesday. And we pretended nothing ever happened. If I can call a timeout in my life, I would have taken more time to heal. I would have recognized that something really bad just happened. What I call it, a stressful life event. And I would have paid attention to my grief. Instead, I put it in a box, and I went back to school. My dad went back to work. Everybody just split from the house. And when I got back to school, I started drinking heavily. Anyone there, I'm telling you, it's a coping mechanism. It is. It's a negative coping mechanism. We're trying to mask our pain, just like our loved ones were masking their pain. Mark was drinking a lot. He was in pain, and someone dies from suicide. They just want that pain to go away. But here's the problem. I wasn't the only Gillan drinking a lot. Remember, there's 5. Me, Mark now in heaven, Sheila, Janice, Matthew. Sheila's the oldest. Mark, Dennis, Janice, Matthew. He's staring at me right there. There's a picture of Matthew right across from my desk. See, I wasn't the only one drinking. That's Matthew, my little brother. Folks, 11 years later, after we lost Mark, 11 years later, in a drunken stupor with access to lethal means, Matt is gone. 11 effing years later. Folks, I'm here to tell you right now, this is something I learned in suicide prevention. Postvention is prevention. We, the Gillan unit, should have done more in the postvention world after Mark because we didn't handle it so well and we didn't know what we're doing. So we're going to give grace all around. I have to give grace to Mark and Matthew. I got to give it to my family. I got to give it to myself. We had no clue how to handle this. None. But I think if we were to handle Mark's a little differently, maybe Matthew would still be here. And I know this for a fact. I've been thinking about this lately, getting ready to do this film. I know for a fact that Mark was in such a bad place, but if I can go back in time and say, Mark, if you do this, I'm telling you, 11 years from now, Matthew's going to do it too. If Mark knew that, if any of our loved ones knew what the grief and the sorrow we would feel, they would have stopped. They would have. They just didn't know. There's no way Mark does it if he knows Matt's following him. There's no way. There's no way our loved ones do it if they know the pain and the angst that we have the rest of our lives. There's no way. They're just in a bad place at the time. I don't like to say that phrase that goes around. It's a temporary solution. It's a permanent solution to temporary problems because the people in that moment don't see them as temporary. They just don't. I'm not giving them excuses. I'm giving them love because I miss these guys. I don't know what was going through their mind at the moment, but I just miss them. That's all. I don't have to explain it. I just miss them. And you know what I'm feeling. You know exactly what I'm feeling. So after Matthew dies, and this is what I want to talk to you folks about, I didn't do this. This is up here for shock value. It's everywhere. And I often do this talk at a homeless shelter. And I forgot this slide was up there. I should have taken it out. A lot of those folks were in the homeless shelter because of drug misuse. When this slide came up, they all said, no, you didn't do that. And I said, no, I didn't. And they were like relieved. They were rooting for me while I was telling my story. And if you've ever had to deal with any of this or a loved one dealing with this, my heart goes out to you. Suicide say drug misuse, alcohol abuse. It's all in this, what we call deaths of desperation. These people don't see hope, and they're masking some pains. Maybe it's a trauma in their life, an adverse childhood event, something that's going on, and this is the answer they see. And again, back to the homeless shelter, they said, no, you didn't do that. And I was happy to report, and I'm happy to report to you all now. And some of you folks are at this meeting because you want to be there, and some of you folks got dragged there. I know, because I got dragged to a couple of these myself, and they're worth it. But if you could pick up one pearl or two pearls, I'm going to throw a pearl out there right now. If you're dealing with the loss of a loved one to suicide, I'm going to ask you a favor, and you don't owe me any. Just take a break from the drinking. I did. On the way back from Matthew's funeral, I had to drive from New York to Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I had 4 hours to think about it. And I remember driving back and said, what am I going to do? I can't drink anymore. And I decided to take a time out. Now be prepared to watch my PowerPoint skills. Ooh, look at that. Fancy, old man. My son put that in there. I have no idea what he did. But I took a time out. And if you're grieving right now, I'm going to just coach you up a little bit. Alcohol is a depressant. After Matt died, I was like super depressed. I'm getting super depressed thinking about it. The picture I'm looking at right now, you can't see it off camera, is Matthew at my wedding. He was my best man at my wedding, and it's staring right at me right now. So I decided to take this time out. I got to Carlisle, I got home, I said, you know what, I'm not going to drink for a while. And I'm happy to report that as you watch this, it's 27 years, 2 months, 17 days, because I know the last day I got drunk, it was the night before we buried Matthew. Got hammered. I'm going to tell myself, got hammered. But now I'm coaching you up. I'm going to give you just a little piece of wisdom. Just back off it for a little bit until you get your head straight. I fell in love with sobriety. It's now 9,990 days from the time you watch this video. And I'm thinking about this. It's 10 more days, and I'll be 10,000 days sober. And one of my biggest regrets is that number's not higher. If it was higher, maybe I could have saw what Matt was going through, because I was too busy in my own little bubble. I don't want to go there. All I want to do is, the takeaway from this slide is watch it. As a survivor of suicide loss, just watch it. I don't drink anymore. I fell in love with sobriety. I'm the best designated driver on the planet. 27 years on my belt. I have these dreams where I break the streak and I have to wake up and start over. I'm not breaking it. I do toast at weddings. That's about it. And I don't even like champagne, but I feel like I'll jinx the couple. So I do that. But that was a good move on my part. And another good move was I went and saw a counselor. Two things that turned my life around were the sobriety piece and going to see a professional. And if you're not a big fan of therapy, I'm going to tell you, I need you to give it a shot. What happened to us, we wouldn't wish it on the devil himself. And now we're dealing with this. And sometimes it just feels good to go in and vomit everything you got on this one person, then leave. My rationale was I couldn't do it to my wife. I couldn't dump all this stuff on my wife. I had a lot going on. But I said, gosh darn it, I could pay someone to listen to me. And when you go in there, I'll just give you a little tip if you've never been. Your problems don't disappear. You don't come out after that hour and it's all Skittles and unicorns. That ain't happening. What happens is your problems are still there, but they have an order to them. And it just, let's tackle this one first. Let's do this one. Let's do this one. And you just work through it. Again, you never get over it. You get through it. And that helped a lot. Those two pillars, sobriety and counseling. And then here's what I'm working on now. What I'm trying to do today, and that's a picture of a brain. I'm trying to trick my brain. I'm actively trying to trick my brain, because my brain can be a jerk. My brain sometimes tells me stuff I don't want to hear. And negative, very negative stuff. We're hard on ourselves. We all are. So this is my new thing right now. I'm on this post-traumatic growth kick. It's up on my bulletin board. I stare at this all day long. What happens, I've been following these guys that are teaching this. It's 5 things can come out of this. The first is new opportunities, possibilities that were not present before. Prior to the trauma, a survivor of suicide loss, what happens after it? One of the possibilities now for me is to become a suicide or mental health advocate. Never would have dreamed that would happen. Never. It was not even on the radar. Until one day I started talking about my brothers and somebody said, you need to tell that story more often. I'm like, well, I think you just heard the one and done show, and now I do it full time. The other thing is change of relationships. Closer and deeper. And I could speak to that. A lot of my friends have rallied. Some of my friends couldn't handle it. They didn't know what to do. But the ones that stuck around while I was grieving are the most awesome ones we all have. You know who they are. And then you get an increased sense of one's own strength. This is all post this trauma. Now, I know I'm going on a limb here saying, we need to grow from this. Shoot. There were days I couldn't grow. I couldn't get out of bed before noon. I get it. I totally get it. If I'm dead serious. After Matthew died, if my feet hit the carpet by noon, and I had a job, by noon, it was a victory. But this is 27 years, Matthew, 38 years after Mark, journey towards recovery. We're on a journey, all of us. But this one, the increased sense of one's strength, resilience. And there's a piece of this that says, if I survive that, I could survive anything. I didn't survive one suicide, I survived two. How? I don't know. I really don't know. But I do know, the sobriety piece and the therapy piece, and then the piece about just day by day. It was day by day. And then now little things don't bother me because my resilience is high. The other thing is I have greater appreciation for life in general. And I remember driving by this sunset. I drove by this bridge a million times. I was watching the sunset. I pulled the car over. I watched the sunset. Nobody else did. But I have a greater appreciation for life in general. And then deepening up my spiritual life. And this could change your belief system. Trust me, I was mad at God for a long time. We're now cool. We still wrestle from time to time. I still can't believe I lost two brothers to suicide. But you'll have a deepening of your spiritual life. And it may change your belief system. So just be on guard. Just look at post-traumatic growth. Be aware of what you're feeding yourself and how you're taking care of yourself. We're in this all together. And I do want to touch on this. When I'm really down, I can't sleep very well. I don't know about you all, but I'll give you 3 tips about sleep, and then I'm going to get out of your way and let you continue with your meeting. First thing about sleep, the room has to be dark. Second thing about sleep, the room has to be cold. And the third thing, white noise. And the reason I bring that up is still to this day, every now and then, like around my anniversaries, my brother's dads, or their birthdays, I have a real tough time sleeping. That's how my new mental health issues alert me. I don't sleep. So I have that. We'll skip over that. That's when I first started talking. Funny story. This. A shared joy is a double joy. A shared sorrow is half a sorrow. I'm so proud of you folks today for showing up and sharing your sorrow. I am so proud of you for getting together. It's not an easy thing to do. And I'm telling you, I know some of you got dragged to this. I know it. I've been dragged on myself. If you can't get out of it, get into it. There's my brothers, Mark and Matthew. They pose for a picture. Miss them, and I miss them daily. And I'm going to leave you with this. That's my foundation. Remember that shared joy is a double joy. A shared sorrow is half a sorrow. I started a foundation so I could speak at schools and places that can't pay me. They just make sure I got to get enough gas to get there, and the foundation pays the rest. We'll figure it out. We always do. My misery has become my mission, and that's my mission. But I want to leave you with this little poem by Robert Browning Hamilton. And it goes like this. I walked a mile with pleasure. She chatted all the way, but left me none the wiser for all she had to say. I walked a mile with sorrow, and ne'er a word said she. But oh, the things I learned when sorrow walked with me. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. Let the grief do its work. And I am so sorry for your loss, but I am so glad you're here today with others. We need each other. God bless you. And again, I am so sorry we're all in this club. And it's our job now to make sure our head's on a swivel and there are no more club members going forward. I love you.